Hi, and welcome to Protecting Information at the Source with Azure Rights Management. My name is Chris Lloyd, and I'm an architect with Oxford Computer Group. Now, I'm sure many of you have heard about Azure RMS, or you may have actually on premises installed Active Directory RMS. You also may have heard this referred to in a different acronym or moniker, probably IRM or some other namesake, and IRM standing for Information Rights Management. Today we're going to take a look at Microsoft Azure RMS. I'm going to go over some of the RMS basics. We're going to look at deployment options and what all this looks like from an end user perspective with some demos between desktop and mobile platforms. I've tried to make my demos as cross-platform as possible so that you'll get an idea of how we can secure data while keeping the users productive. Keeping users productive is one of the principal tenets of Azure RMS. So why Azure RMS? We're sharing more data than ever before, and companies need more data or have more data that they need to protect. Once a document leaves your company's perimeter, even if it's enforced with an MDM or whatever hardening approaches you've taken to protect your perimeter, once that document leaves that area, you've lost control of that document. So Azure RMS allows you control over your data, much in the same way that an MDM allows you control over your devices. You're just extending that to your protected data. So here's a little factoid. In the next decade, we expect to see the world's data increase 44 times. And that's huge, because in 2012, the size of that data was expected to be 2.7 zettabytes. And that's an increase from 48% from 2011. And for those of you still working out what a zettabyte is, it's 1 billion terabytes, so 1 billion terabytes. So the amount of data, if the amount of data is supposed to increase by a factor of 44, then we're going to be looking at 118 zettabytes of worldwide data. And those numbers are, at least to me, they're so immense that we can't actually grasp the true quantitative significance of those numbers. And nobody should be surprised by the second half of that factoid there. I haven't been at one place that says, we have all the manpower we need to get exactly what we have done. So we're going to be forced with the same constraints and manpower we have today, but with more data to manage and protect. So another stat here, we have 87% of senior management is admitting to uploading files to a personal email or cloud account. And I'm equally guilty of this. Sometimes it's the only method to share files effectively. And some organizations spend a lot of time blocking cloud file hosting solutions. And this is often ineffective and leads to a sort of whack-a-mole approach where they're going out and they're trying to block these cloud hosting providers for data, and the end user just goes out and finds a different one, and they keep going down that path. And it's not very effective. And the last one here, we have 58% of those senior managers have accidentally sent sensitive information to the wrong person. These are huge concerns if you're trying to protect sensitive data. And encrypting your data should be a major concern for your business. So we're going to take a look at some of the features, components that make up Azure RMS. And a lot of people, when they think of Azure RMS, they think it's like a one-sided, one-faceted item, and it's many different things wrapped up into one. So the first thing is Azure RMS provides rights management for Office 365. It integrates with Office 365 message encryption, SharePoint Online, and applying RMS templates via transport rules in Exchange for Office 365. You can also connect Azure RMS to a file server running file classification infrastructure so that you can protect those documents as they sit on a file server. And that's done for your on-premise items using something called the RMS connector. And that's a server that we'll look at a little bit more closely, where it connects to the Azure RMS service, pulls in those templates, and allows you to utilize them in an on-prem fashion. And in the same vein of that RMS connector, it can also connect to an Exchange server on-premise or a SharePoint server on-premise and protect data in those systems as well. And if you're familiar at all with Azure Active Directory, you know that we have directory synchronization for your identities so that users have a common identity across internal to your enterprise as well as in the cloud. So that facilitates our sharing as well as our authentication component to this. And probably most importantly to an end user is we're supporting all the popular platforms, Windows, Mac OS, iOS, Android, and Windows Phone. And that's critical for end users to be able to open those documents on any platform they want. But the point is that we want to make sure that those are securely opened and are still protected. So how Azure RMS works. We'll take a look at here. This isn't intended to be a all-encompassing or highly technical, just kind of the basics of how RMS and Azure RMS works. They both work in a similar fashion. Just the key distribution points are slightly different. So on the left, we have an unprotected document which contains our secret cola formula, which is water, high fructose corn syrup, and the all-important brown dye number 16. So that document is protected. The encryption is actually done on the client. So when it's protected, it's done on the client, whether that be in a PowerPoint document, a Word document, or Excel. But the encryption is done on the client. And now what's retrieved from the cloud is the policy and the organization's key to protect that document. And so the policy is also applied, which is kind of like a envelope, which controls who has access to the documents, what permissions they have to the document, whether or not they can print, forward, edit the document, and an expiration date and offline access restrictions. And so that's what's retrieved from the cloud being applied to the document. And on the right-hand side, we have the decryption side. So the application looks at the policy, contacts the Azure RMS service. If the user's been authenticated and has access to the document, the application will allow the user access but enforce restrictions put in place by the policy. So that's kind of in a high-level overview what Azure RMS is and how it's protecting your documents. So I wanted to take a second to pull up the different cryptographic controls that are in use with this product, and these are always good to have, in case the security department or yourself are interested in knowing what the details of the cryptographic methods that are in use by this product. I don't really want to go through these right now, but I'm just going to throw them up there if you wanted to do some more research later on. And what's funny is my wife is actually an auditor, and whenever certain technologies that we may be working on cross paths or line up, she always wants to know the what it's certified for and the standards that it uses. So you can see here we've got FIPS 140-2, we've got HIPAA, we have FedRAMP, PCI. So these are all things that if you're facing an audit, you may want to look at Azure RMS as a way to meet those auditory requirements. So prior to Azure AD, it was the enterprise's responsibility to set up ADFS trusts, or trusted user domains, to facilitate the authentication component of protected document sharing between partners. And Microsoft is actually alleviating that pain point by taking on that responsibility, utilizing Azure Active Directory as the fabric of trust. So in this example, we have Contoso and Fabricam, and they're going to synchronize their identities up to the cloud using AAD Sync or AAD Connect. And once they've done that, they're actually syncing, for Azure RMS only requires 13 attributes. And if you're already using Office 365, or if you're using Intune or any other Azure product where you've had to synchronize your Active Directory up to the cloud, those 13 attributes would have been included with that. But if you're new to Azure AD, we're only looking at synchronizing 13 attributes up to the cloud. So in our scenario here, we have Contoso, Fabricam, they both synchronize their identities, and now that they've done that, they've trusted Azure Active Directory, and they can share documents between each other utilizing Azure Active Directory as the authentication point between those transfers of documents and viewing of documents. And since they've trusted Azure Active Directory, that opens them up to a host of other organizations that have all trusted Azure AD as well. And there also is the possibility that they've sent the file, they may send a file to a user at an organization that has not synchronized their identities with Azure Active Directory. And in that instance, a user can sign up for what they call Azure Rights Management for Individuals, where they can create an individual account, they can access those documents, And then at a later time, that organization may decide to take charge or take ownership of that domain and kind of scoop up all those individual accounts. So that's all supported within the current implementation of Azure RMS. So we have the applications that are currently supporting Azure RMS. We've got all our major Office products as well as Office for Mac 2016. There's actually even now the Office suite for the iPad or iOS is now supporting opening up RMS encrypted documents, and that got released just a couple days ago. And that right now in its current form allows the user to open up the document. It still hasn't been updated to support the editing of the documents or creation of protected content, but we're coming there. We're starting to get really close. And then there's the RMS Sharing application, which we'll take a look at in just a bit, and how that facilitates between applications that aren't currently supporting RMS, as well as utilizing it to share protected content to individuals. And then there's the all ever important PDFs. So we have support for Adobe through GigaTrust's add-in for Adobe. There's Foxit Reader, Nitro, PDF Reader, and the RMS Sharing application also opens up protected PDF documents. So I'm going to get down to Azure RMS deployment options, and I have these kind of pinned down into two categories where we have cloud ready and kind of cloud accepting. And between these two things, I can actually I've seen many different deployments where we use bits and pieces of both of these two different deployments. I mean, nobody is exactly the same as to how they want to use Azure RMS. But these are kind of the two ones that I've easily seen in the field where we have these two standard different deployment options. But take that back as you can change this as however you want to use Azure RMS. So our cloud-ready organizations may already be synchronizing their identities to Azure. They're using Office 365, so it's a pretty easy step for them to integrate Office 365 with Azure rights management. We're using the keys that we've either brought your own key or we're using a Microsoft managed key, and Azure Active Directory is facilitating the authentication and collaboration. This is a bare bones, this is easy setup. We've already got everything in the cloud. We don't have to worry about anything on-prem as far as what we're going to do. And this is fairly easy to configure. This is not hard to do just to enable users to share documents about what we're going to demo here today. Now there's some advanced things that we can take on-prem and we can do an exchange that I'm not going to go over today, but we're going to go over that in later webinars that Oxford will be doing. So that's really cloud ready. Organization is fully committed to the cloud and they are going to integrate it with Office 365. Our second scenario is a cloud accepting organization where we don't have Office 365. We may or we may not, but we've decided to synchronize our identities to Azure Active Directory. Remember, that's only 13 properties if you only want to use Azure Active Directory for RMS. But in this one, you'll notice that we have the RMS connector, and that was the server I was referencing earlier. And it's actually a couple of servers, so you want to have failover. But what that server does is it facilitates the policy, the templates to apply RMS, and it allows SharePoint, Exchange, and a file server running file classification infrastructure on premises to connect to that RMS connector, retrieve those policies, and use them to protect content that's on premise. Now, when a user accesses any of the content in those systems, they don't talk to the RMS connector. They're actually going to go up to the rights management service in the cloud, and via the template that's been applied to the content they're accessing, that will allow them to access it. So it actually, the RMS connector is not touched by an end user. It's only touched by the services on premise. And as I said before, these can be, between the first slide where we have cloud ready and cloud accepting, we can kind of mishmash via the Azure RMS connector and kind of create a custom Azure deployment set up for your organization. So we have a comparison of the rights management services that are out there, and there's really two columns. There's three different licenses we're talking about here. And there's RMS for Office 365, which if you have Office 365 and you have enterprise E3 licenses, you already have the RMS for Office 365. But if you're looking at EMS, or you can buy Azure Rights Management Standalone, those are the other two licenses that give you additional features. Now currently they're kind of aligned, and the only one right now, as of today, that the Rights Manager for Office 365 does not have is it doesn't have the ability to work with the RMS connector and connect to a file server running file classification infrastructure. Now, there is a current item that's in preview now, which both have, but it will be going away for the RMS for Office 365, and that's the document tracking portal, where users can track the usage of their documents as well as revoke access through this web portal to documents they've previously shared. Now that's a huge feature, and that's something that if you've seen it, you understand how important and impressive it is. And if you lose that, once the preview goes away, you'll want to probably get that back. So EMS or Azure RMS Standalone is a great investment to access that feature after the preview goes away. So managing policy templates, and what is a policy template? A policy template is used to control the rights that a user or a group has on a particular piece of rights protected content. And it defines who has access to the content, what access level they have, the content expiration, and offline access. And before we go into the demo and I show you, how to get to the templates and how to configure them in Azure, just a quick use case that I ran across that I thought might be interesting to share. It was a distribution or a manufacturing that had distribution partners, and they would send out a price list of their items, their parts, to these resellers, and they wanted a way to basically protect the content because it was a price list. It was pretty confidential, and they wanted the expiration really intrigued them because they liked the fact that they could protect the content, only authorize people that they had deemed necessary to have access, and the content expiration. So they knew that their price list was going to expire at the end of the quarter, and so if they set it up to expire at that date, then that document would expire. The user couldn't access it, and they would end up having to route their request for the new price list back to the organization. So that's just something I want to share with you of how this can be used. There's a protection level there, but there's also now an expiration element where I can force people to go find the latest and greatest document, and I don't have to worry about old copies existing out there that may have incorrect information. So we'll go ahead and take a look at the creating and walking through how to build a policy template. So here I'm logged into Azure, the management portal. I've clicked on my Active Directory. There's two under here. We have, the one I'll be working with today is the Lloyd demo, Azure Active Directory. You'll notice up on the top I have Rights Management all the way to the right. You'll click on that. Now if you've never set up Azure Rights Management before, at the bottom, after you click one of your the domain that you want to either activate, you'll have the activate button down there. And what that does is that enables Azure RMS. It just enables the entire service. And I know we didn't go over that today, and we hopefully will in a later webinar. Once you click activate, it's going to generate that tenant key for you in Azure. And I don't want to go too deep into this, but that tenant key, you have the ability to just use that tenant key, export it, keep it safe, or you could go through the process of bringing your own key. And I understand you may not be familiar with those concepts right now, but if you stay tuned to Oxford's webinar series, you'll see that we will definitely go over the two different key scenarios that Microsoft has to offer. But as far as managing the templates, once it's activated, you can click on the arrow next to your domain. It'll bring up the quick start screen here, and if you click on templates underneath your domain name, you'll see all the templates that are already there provided. Now I've created two here of financial data and personally identifiable information, but it comes defaulted with a confidential and a confidential view only. And so Microsoft has decided that this is probably a good idea to give enterprises enabling this two templates to start out with, and they're pretty good. So they basically do a confidential and a view only. So the view only obviously does what it says, and then the confidential is just proprietary information. Now you can't edit these or disable them. Or sorry, you can disable them and delete them, but you probably just want to archive them. And the difference you'll see in the status side over here is that they're published or they could be archived. And when they're published, they're available for users to use. The documents that have been encrypted with those templates can be opened. And when they're archived, they aren't available for the users to author documents with, but they can still be available to open up the document and allow the consumption. You can also delete templates. However, I would strongly caution that, because once you delete the template and the documents exist with that template applied to them, they can't be opened anymore. So you're essentially destroying those the access to those documents because the template won't be available anymore. So let's go ahead and take a look at an already existing one. I'll open up my personal identifiable information one. And right off the bat, you have three different sections up here: rights, scope, and configure. And in rights, this is where you put users and or groups and define what those users and or groups have access to do with documents that have this template applied to them. And this can be anything from print, view, and if I click on one of these and click edit, you'll see that I can bring up the rights, so I can come back and change this at any point. Right now I have this one set to a custom one, but I could easily move it to viewer, and if I hover over the question mark here, I'll get exactly what those rights are. Custom allows me to, on the next page, go through the checkboxes and actually look at all the different and select additional ones that may be out of the box kind of permission sets here. So anyway, users and groups can either go in here. I would recommend groups. And if you already have an identity management system, maybe it's FIM, a group management requirement would be highly advisable here, where you have an on-premise ability to have self-service groups where users can say, oh, I need access to these documents, I need to be into this group, and they go into maybe the portal, if it's the FIM portal, request access, there's an approval process through that, they get in the group, that group membership gets synchronized up to Azure Active Directory, and lo and behold, they can now access the content. Otherwise, if you don't have one of those in place, you'll be forced to kind of manually modify these without any governance and approval scenarios behind that. So I would highly advise investigating in a group management, whether depending on whatever your identity management platform is, but a group management project if you don't have one already. If you do, you can just wrap these right up into it. The scope is sort of new. I believe it's out of preview now. And you may have also seen that as departmental templates. And departmental templates in scope here basically allow you to say, all right, these users and or groups have the ability to author documents with with this template. And so when they open the sharing app or they right click on a file, that policy template will apply to them if they're in a group or they're added here. If they're not, they will not see it. Now a user could have rights to the template. They may not be in the scope, meaning that they can open up documents that have had this template applied to them. And under the configuration section, which is the last and final section, here's where you would get the ability to publish or archive this template. You can edit the name and description. There's the ability to do localizations here, so we can select different languages and have those localizations for the name and description. You can also set up the content expiration. We have it never expiring. The content expiration date may be a set date in the future, or it can be after the content is protected. So once it's protected, it has X number of days before it time bombs out and it can no longer be accessed. And then there's offline access. Now the default when you create a new template is to set the number of days to 7. So it's choosing the last option here and 7. I've always advised clients to drop that down to a lower number, maybe 2, maybe even 1, because nobody's ever really offline that long in 2015 or has been for a long time, because the only time I feel like I'm ever offline is when I'm in a plane traveling somewhere. So setting the content is always available. The second option is highly inadvisable because the user can disconnect their computer from the network and access that content indefinitely until they connect that workstation back up to the internet. And then, this may also be an interesting option, but the flex, where we have content available is only available with an internet connection. But there's always that chance that somebody is stuck, in an offline scenario. So I'm always advising customers, depending on the requirements, to pick option number 3 here, and lower that number down from the default of 7. So this is kind of an overview of the template settings. When you create them, it looks fairly similar to what we did. It just takes you through the steps. You can select your language, which is basically that localization section that can be changed later on. And you can, we'll just make a dummy one here. So a template 1, and this is a demo. And you'll see it's creating it, and it creates it, and just like we did the other one, you can go right on through and select the rights, the scope, and do the rest of the configuration. So that's really how you would create these templates. And as I said, I would, it creates them in an archive state, meaning that users cannot author documents with them. So once you can create the whole thing and then publish it at a set time later on. But that's kind of the overview of managing your templates in Azure, the Azure Management Portal. So the rights management sharing application is something Microsoft has released that integrates with Office 2010 and 2013, and allows users to share documents protected. It also allows the consumption of documents, and it integrates with. There's one for Android, there's one for iOS, Windows Mobile, obviously Windows, and Mac OS 10. And so, this is a Windows example, and we'll look at some cross-platform example of this application. But currently, it integrates into the quick access toolbar with the Share Protected button. It also has a Windows Shell extension, which pulls back those policy templates that we looked at earlier. You'll notice that's how they display there in the contextual menu. They can use that to have custom permissions. They can remove protections if they have permissions to do so. And they can share protected as well as from the context, the right click menu. And as we keep going back to across all devices, Windows, iOS, Android, and even Mac OS 10 computers. And this is kind of a brief overview of how the sharing is works with the document. So user can drag the file into a mail message. They can click the Share Protected button. The Share Protected application opens up. They can select the rights for that user that they want to provide for that document. They have some additional check boxes where they can set the expiration date, get notifications when the document is opened, and you can provide access to instantly revoke access. And in the bottom here, we have when the user receives the document, opens it up, they get a notification that it's contains confidential information. They can click the View Permissions button and view the permissions. And we'll take a look at this. Right now, I'll run through some demos through the different cross platforms and show you how all these work. So now I'm going to demo, utilizing the Sharing app in Outlook while sharing a document to an internal user, so another user that's already inside this user's organization. And the user I have here is called Bugs Bunny, and we're going to share a text document with a coworker of his, Michigan J. Frog. And the text document just has a bunch of random text in there. So I'm going to drag that into the Outlook message. I'm going to type in Michigan's email address, add a subject as you would with a message. So I'm going to go ahead and then I'm going to click the Share Protected button up here. Now this opens up the RMS Sharing app, and you'll notice we have our templates here, and we have ones with a globe, and there's also ones that have a building there. So the globe ones are universal. They can be used with users outside your organization, and you can basically set the permissions that they have listed there. The ones with the buildings are your templates that we created in the Azure RMS service in the cloud. So those templates that I just walked you through. And so those exist down here. And the RMS Sharing App is smart enough to understand that mfrog is in the domain that Bugs Bunny's in, and that's why these are appearing. If I were to share, and I'll do this in a second, but when I share it to an external user, these won't be available because the RMS app knows that if you send this document to an external user, they're not going to be able to access it if one of these templates is applied. So I'll go ahead and I'm going to apply the personal identifiable information, and I'll go ahead and send that over. So I'm just going to wait for that to protect the document, pulling down the key, applying the policy to the document, and then it will send it via the normal exchange method. Let me just give it a second, try for the outbox to send the message. This always happens faster in real life, or you're just not really paying attention until you demo this. But once that's out, then I'll sign out of Bugs Bunny, and then I'll sign in as Michigan J Frog. And before I do that, I just wanted to, you'll notice that Bugs Bunny got an email message here to letting him know that he protected a document, and then he can go to the document tracking portal to view who's had access to the document. So I'll go ahead and sign out. We'll go over to Michigan J Frog's workstation. And I'll open up Outlook. I see the number 1 there. I'm just waiting on that message to appear in the inbox. Try closing Outlook again, open it back up. There we go. So you'll see we've got the email from Bugs Bunny, and you'll notice that there's 2 attachments now. So Bugs Bunny attached the Word document, and then the RMS Sharing App also created a copy of that document in the format of a protected PDF. And the reason it does that is because it needs to, in the current mobile platform support that we currently have, the sharing app on the mobile devices can handle the protected PDF files. Right now, except for the new iOS, Office apps can now handle the docx, but the Android and other platforms cannot handle protected PDF files. So we'll go ahead and just open this up. Oh, I clicked on it. Outlook's going to preview it, and in order to preview it, it's got to contact the RMS server. But if I open it up in Word here, you'll notice that we get the permissions set. We have the template name up there, as well as the template description, and we can see the permissions that we have as Michigan J Frog. So we can also open up the protected PDF file because we have the sharing app installed here. It can handle opening that up. And we'll take a look in a second after I do a couple more demos how those mobile apps handle those documents. So I'll go switch back and we'll demonstrate how to send a protected file to an external user. I'm going to sign back in as Bugs Bunny here. Open up Outlook. And I make a new email I'm going to send it to my own Oxford Computer Group account. This is going to be my Excel file. I'm going to send an Excel file. I think I've got an Excel document. I think I'll just make a new one because I think the other ones have some credit card information in them. So it's dummy credit card information, but it'll get caught in my exchange policy. So I have, and I'll just go ahead and put some random numbers in there. So add letters. That'll work fine. So So we'll drag that over just like we did before. We'll click Share Protected, and the sharing app will open up, and you'll see that we don't no longer have the company templates anymore. We only have the global ones. So for myself, just for the purpose of these demos, I'm going to do the co-authors so that I don't have any problems with my screen sharing app, because it'll block it out sometimes. And you'll notice I have the ability to expire the documents, email me when someone tries to open them, and allow me to instantly revoke access to those documents. So I'm going to click that last one because we'll demo that in a second. So I'll send it now. So it's being sent. Bugs Bunny is also going to get another email with another link to the document tracking portal once it's been sent. So it's out. Just waiting for it to arrive on my computer over here. You'll see that Bugs Bunny got the message that to the document tracking portal, also who it was sent to, and it's arrived over in my my own email client. So you'll see I have the Excel file, I have the protected PDF file. I'm going to go ahead and open up that Excel file, and of course it's opening up on my other monitor, but I'll drag it over, and you'll see that it's I have the permissions. I have all permissions, so I can do whatever I want with this document, but that could easily be restricted depending on what Bugs Bunny chose, and that's who it's restricted to. Now Bugs Bunny should have got he can go into his tracking portal now, and he should. Now I may have done this too quickly, but I think we're good. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to keep up, but it looks like I viewed it here. We can see in the timeline that he's got one view here. If he had multiple ones over a span of different dates, they would display out there. The map will actually show where we viewed the document at. And the reason it's showing up twice is because when we clicked on an Outlook tried to preview it, authenticated, and the second time was when I opened it up in the app. So if you're confused as to why we got two there, it's because Outlook tries to preview it, and I beat Outlook before it previewed it, but it's still authenticated and said I opened up the document. And the summary screen is actually quite nice too, so we get all the details on the summary screen. We also have the ability to revoke access to the document, by clicking the revoke access button. So I'm going to go ahead and click the revoke access button now. I can notify recipients by email once it's been revoked, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'll click confirm, and I'll go back to my item here, and I should get an email back from Bugs Bunny or the RMS. It should be from the RMS service. Hopefully it doesn't go into my junk folder. It didn't. Okay. While that's happening, oh, I think it went to my inbox. Okay. So it says Bugs Bunny's revoke access to this document. He could, you could have adjusted the text here, but it also allows you to contact Bugs Bunny if you have any questions as to why you revoked your document. Now, if I try to open up this Excel file, I should get blocked this time, and I should not have ability to open up the document. So you see right here, I do not have credentials that allow you to open up this workbook, and that I don't. There's no credentials now that it's been revoked, but this is what the message that the user is going to try to receive when the document's been revoked. And you even see this applies to not only the protected Excel file, but also the protected PDF. And I do not have permission to view his content anymore. It does allow me the option to contact Bugs Bunny, although he's not going to be at the current time. He won't be able to unrevoke that document. He'll have to send it again with the RMS protection applied to a second document. So one other example I'd like to demo here is sending a file where there isn't the application isn't currently supporting RMS. The protection, it doesn't respect the templates, and there's no internal support in that application to support Azure RMS. And that application we're going to demo is Visio. So Visio currently doesn't support RMS, You can see I've got a Visio document here. I don't have Visio installed on this workstation, but I can look at it in the viewer. And so I'm going to send that externally back to my Oxford Computer Group account. And this is in the Visio. So I'm going to attach the Visio document in here. I'm going to share just like we have before with the Share Protected button. And you'll notice here we don't have the templates there anymore that we did previously with the document, the Word document. You'll notice we only have generic protection here. Because the RMS Sharing App understands that the permissions cannot be enforced after the file is open with a Visio document because it currently doesn't support RMS. So, it's going to encrypt the document, but once that user has the document and has opened it up, they have full control. They could save a copy, but in flight and only to that user is this document accessible. So it's kind of we're meeting halfway here, we're kind of bridging the gap until more and more applications start supporting RMS. We're still getting the document encrypted. It can't be opened except for the user that we specify here. But once that user has that document, it's theirs to do as they wish. We can also expire the document on a certain date. We can have these same things where we can instantly revoke access to the document. I'm not going to check those now because we've already been through that scenario. So I'll go ahead and send that document over to myself right now. And it'll encrypt the document, protect it, and then send it over to my Oxford Computer Group email. So it's protected, it's in the out box waiting to be sent. It should be sent, and in a couple seconds I'll be receiving that document on, there it is. So I do have Visio installed on my desktop. And so I can go ahead and open that document here. It'll open up the Sharing App. The Sharing App's going to open it like a zip file. It's going to let me know my permissions, and it understands that my version of Visio is not able to manage these rights. There's a link there to look for an updated version, but I have the most recent version of Visio installed. So I click Open, unwraps the document, allows me to edit the document as I see fit. I could save it, but now I've been granted access to the document. So the document was encrypted, it was decrypted to allow me to access it, and Visio can open up the document. So that's the last use case that I have here for the Sharing App to demo. So there's also a mobile client for the Sharing App that allows the consumption of protected documents on the mobile platforms. And the current option is only photos can be encrypted and shared using the mobile application. They're going to expand this in a later release where that can be applied to multiple different document types. But currently it only supports photos, but it does facilitate the consumption of encrypted documents that are sent to the user. And as you saw in our demonstrations, when we did use the Sharing App, you'll notice those two documents, when a document is shared to a user, they have the protected Office document and the protected PDF file. And the Sharing App on the mobile platforms utilizes the protected PDF file and allows the user to open that up. And once the user opens it up, they're presented with a screen that says they have restricted access, but this is the levels of permissions they have. They can swipe through that screen and access the content. And you'll see on the left, you'll see that we have both items show up in the attachment list. If the user were to try to open up the docx previous to the new Office for iOS, they wouldn't be able to. So when I demo this on my Android phone, you'll see that I can't open up the docx file, but I can open up the protected PDF file. So we'll go ahead and get that demo up, and we'll take a look at how it functions on the mobile. So I've had Bugs Bunny send a encrypted Word document to my Oxford Computer Group account, which I have pulled up on my Android device. This is currently it's running Lollipop, which is I think version 5.1 right now, or 5.0, I can't remember. But I have his email, so if I go into his email, it'll show up, and I'll have both attachments here. And just to show you that if I try to open up the docx, it's going to download that attachment, attempt to open it up, and I'll get an error in that I can't open the attachment. So I won't be able to open it up, but that's where the protected PDF comes into play. And that is able to be opened by the sharing application I have installed on the phone. So if I open this up, it'll download it, the sharing app will open up, and if I haven't previously authenticated the sharing app, it'll ask me to authenticate, but I already have in this instance, and you'll notice that the controls pop up that I have, what I have access to in the document. Now in the sharing app, I'm only able to view the document. I'm not able to edit the content or handle any of the other functions of print. I can zoom in, I can read the content just as I would in a normal document sent to me. Now the sharing app in and of itself is, as I said before, it currently allows you to share photos encrypted, and this will be expanded out into document sharing, so we can actually encrypt the document on a mobile device and send it to a recipient. But I can take a photo or choose one from my library. I think I'll go ahead and choose one from my library rather than take a photo. So if I go to my photos and I pick up maybe this photo right here, it pulls it up. It will ask me what template I want to, or actually, in this case, it's going to ask me to authenticate. I'm going to pause the recording here and trim this out so I don't type my password. So if I authenticated, it'll ask me what permissions I want to. You'll notice this is my Oxford account. We only have the 2 defaulted templates. So if I send it to confidential view only, I can apply that. And then I've set the following permissions on the photo, and then I can share. And sharing will bring up the contextual menu in Android. In iOS, it'll look slightly different, but I'm going to choose Gmail. I'm going to actually set this to my Oxford account, and I'll send it to. I'll have to. And since it's a template is internal to my company, I'll just go ahead and send this to myself. That way I can open it and show it to you on the computer. So I'll go ahead and close that out. So I've got the email to come in. This is the default message that comes with that. It's a protected image. I'll go ahead and open it up. The sharing app opens it up, shows the template that it has on there. And I can click open, and it'll open it up within the photo viewer here. So that's the mobile sharing app. So the last demo I want to go through today includes an iPad, and recently the iPad Office Suite was updated to support opening up RMS protected documents. And so using that same email that Bugs Bunny sent that we opened up on the Android device, we're going to open this up on the iPad. And you'll notice I have the Office applications installed here, and so we'll just have to hold our finger down on that one, open it up in Word. Word opens the file contacting the RMS server. And the permissions, you'll see it's restricted access, and the permissions are listed here. Now you'll see that it looks like Word. The only thing that's not enabled right now is opening up or editing the protected content. So you'll see edit isn't supported, but we know that this is on the roadmap to allow them to edit the documents, and they are moving really fast with the development of these products. So that's how it works there. If the user didn't have Office open, they could easily open the protected PDF file with the sharing app. Just like we saw on the Android, it's the same exact process. But this is, we now have the ability to open up RMS protected content in the native Office apps on the iPad, which is really, really neat. Thank you for attending the webinar. If you have any questions, you can email me at chris.lloyd@oxfordcomputergroup.com. It's on your screen right now. I think one of the main takeaways that I hope you've gotten is that data protection is so important now that we're dealing with such immense quantities of data. And this was just a taste into the the end user side of it, so we can demonstrate how users can facilitate sharing of secure documents. I want to there's other facets of RMS that we can set up to automate and try to protect documents that you may already have that when the end users aren't protecting themselves, so that we can encrypt on files on a file share or an Exchange or SharePoint. And that way we can expand the perimeter of RMS. I know I talked about the perimeter of your MDM and other security things. Well, Azure RMS is the same way. You can, you set up your perimeter and then you constantly expand the perimeter of RMS. So you can start thinking about it as if these documents are similar to your mobile devices, where you're managing mobile devices and controlling what can be done on these mobile devices. So in the same way you're doing with these documents with RMS, you're putting policies out there for certain documents containing certain information. And this falls in line with Microsoft's Enterprise Mobility Suite. And if you haven't heard of this, definitely go check it out. This is the suite and includes Azure RMS, but also includes Active Directory Premium, the Intune product for managing your mobile devices, Advanced Threat Analytics, which has recently been released, and this suite of products really allows you to manage users and manage your data and protect your environment. So I'd definitely go check that out. It's constantly changing as far as all the products they're including with it and all the features. I mean, even the iOS demo, that just came out extremely recently, and you can see with the direction they're going and how fast they are implementing this. It's a constant fun to see how many new things they're improving upon. And it's not like if you're used to a cycle, a product cycle, then you're kind of used to it being 6 months if you're lucky. We're talking in weeks at a time that they're improving these features and adding new ones. So definitely check it out. It's a great product, and it can definitely help you save your company's data.